There's a version of Ashton Kutcher the world was sold for decades, the small-town kid, the charming prankster, the guy who built a charity to protect children. And then there are the moments he couldn't explain away.
Then Danny goes and goes, dude, I'll give you $10 if you French kiss her.
That's a 19-year-old man being bet money to French kiss on a TV set. And he did it. That's not alleged. That happened on camera. A 14-year-old girl on a talk show
saw what I thought was red wine spilled on the carpet, adding, I didn't really think.
A woman was stabbed 47 times that night, and the man who was supposed to be with her left.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
3 moments, 3 completely different situations, one name connecting all of them. But here's what nobody is really asking out loud. How does someone spend 20 years building a public image as a protector of the vulnerable while repeatedly, consistently ending up at the center of stories like these? That's what we're getting into today. Let's go back to the beginning, because to understand where Ashton Kutcher is now, you have to understand how carefully his story was constructed from the very start. Born Christopher Ashton Kutcher in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Working class family, no industry connections, no Hollywood parents pulling strings. By every account, he was just a regular Midwestern kid until he wasn't. A significant part of Ashton's early life was shaped by his twin brother Michael's serious heart condition, which ultimately required a transplant. People close to Ashton have said that experience never left him. The guilt of watching someone you love suffer and feeling powerless to stop it, that kind of thing shapes a person, for better or worse. And then came modeling. He was discovered at a local bar in the late 1990s, which is as classic a Hollywood origin story as it gets. He quickly became the face of major brands, Calvin Klein, Abercrombie, and Fitch. These weren't just clothes companies. They were selling a specific version of American youth. Aspirational, provocative, hypersexualized. That was the product. Abercrombie and Fitch at that time was owned by Les Wexner, the billionaire behind L Brands, Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body Works. The same Les Wexner who, it was later documented, gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over his financial empire and handed him his Manhattan mansion. The FBI later named Wexner as a co-conspirator in the Epstein investigation. Now, to be absolutely clear, being the face of a brand does not make you responsible for who owns that brand. Ashton was a young model taking jobs. That is not a crime. That is not even unusual, but it is the first brick in what becomes a very long road of proximity. Modeling opened doors to acting. Acting led to That 70s Show in 1998. And That 70s Show, that's where everything that came after really begins. That 70s Show made Ashton Kutcher a star. It also put him on screen as Michael Kelso, opposite a 14-year-old Mila Kunis, who played Jackie Burkhart. Their characters had romantic storylines. Their real-life chemistry was undeniable. And Mila herself has been completely open about the fact that she had a massive crush on Ashton. She described him as the Calvin Klein model and said she freaked out when she read in the script that they would have to kiss. Ashton said he was the nervous one. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that here was this young girl and he had to kiss her, and it was nerve-wracking. That's a sweet story on the surface, except she was 14, he was 19, and on the set of a major network television show, a bet was made.
Then Danny goes and goes, dude, I'll give you $10 if you French kiss her. What would you stick your tongue in my mouth?
That clip aired on national television. It was treated as a funny anecdote at the time. They were laughing about it. The audience was laughing. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because the reframing of that moment is one of the most uncomfortable parts of this entire story. A grown man, Danny Masterson, betting another grown man, Ashton Kutcher, money too, and years later, on a talk show, it was a punchline. Danny Masterson, the man who made that bet, was convicted in 2023 of rape and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. That is not alleged. That is a matter of court record. And Ashton Kutcher, the man who was bet to kiss that 14-year-old, he later wrote a letter to Masterson's sentencing judge calling him a role model. We will get to that letter, because it deserves its own conversation. February 21st, 2001, Ashton Kutcher was 23 years old. He had plans that evening with a young woman named Ashley Ellerin, a friend, someone he'd been spending time with. He was late. Ashton testified in court years later in the trial of a man named Michael Gargiulo, who became known as the Hollywood Ripper, that he arrived at Ashley's apartment that night, knocked on the door, got no answer, and left. He assumed she'd gotten tired of waiting and gone out.
Saw what I thought was red wine spilled on the carpet, adding, I didn't really think.
Ashley Ellerin was stabbed 47 times inside her home that night. What Ashton thought was red wine on the carpet was not red wine. His fingerprints were found at the scene. He was never charged. He was never considered a suspect. Michael Gargiulo was eventually convicted of the murder. That is the official legal record of what happened. But here's where it gets complicated. and where the documented facts give way to documented questions. According to testimony that emerged during the Masterson trial, Chrissy Carbo Bixler, one of the women who accused Danny Masterson, stated publicly that she was present when Masterson received a phone call from Ashton the same night of Ashley Ellerin's murder. She alleged Ashton had already spent significant time on the phone with his manager before calling Masterson. This account has not been independently verified through court conviction or official finding. It is the testimony of one individual. We are presenting it because it is a matter of public record. It was stated publicly, not as established fact. What is confirmed is this: a young woman died on a night Ashton was supposed to be with her. He testified he was at the scene, and his statements about that night became part of multiple legal proceedings over the following 2 decades. There's no comfortable way to tell that story. And the fact that it largely disappeared from mainstream coverage for years is its own kind of statement. By the mid-2000s, Ashton Kutcher was everywhere. He had That 70s Show. He'd launched Punk'd on MTV, a prank show that made him a cultural phenomenon, and more importantly, gave him enormous behind-the-scenes power in Hollywood. The show actually started under a different, more provocative working title before being rebranded. Its early pranks resulted in lawsuits from participants who claimed emotional distress. That's not a rumor, that's court record. But Punk'd did something else. It put Ashton in a position of power over people who didn't know they were being filmed, didn't consent to what was happening, and then had limited legal recourse when they tried to push back. The show was built structurally on asymmetric power. The host always knew. The target never did. That's not a crime. But it is a pattern worth noting when you look at everything else. In 2003, Ashton was photographed at a Scientology Celebrity Center Christmas party alongside Danny Masterson. Ashton has never publicly confirmed membership in the Church of Scientology, but his presence at their events and his sustained closeness with Masterson, who was a devoted member, has been widely documented. The Church of Scientology has faced serious, extensively documented allegations of intimidation, covering up abuse, and discouraging members from cooperating with law enforcement. Again, these are not fringe claims. They are the subject of documentaries, journalism, and legal proceedings. Ashton was in that orbit, documented, photographed. We have to talk about the letter, because out of everything in this entire story, the letter is the one thing that cannot be reframed, cannot be walked back, and cannot be explained away as proximity or coincidence. In 2023, Danny Masterson was convicted of rape, 2 counts. He was sentenced to 30 years to life. Before sentencing, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis each submitted character letters to the judge on Masterson's behalf. Ashton's letter described Masterson as a role model. It spoke to his character. It asked the judge for leniency.
We are aware of the pain that has been caused by the character letters that we wrote on behalf of Danny Masterson.
We support victims. We have done this historically through our work and will continue to do so in the future.
They apologized, eventually, after the backlash became impossible to ignore, but let's be honest about what that apology actually said. It said, "We know the letters caused pain." It said, "We support victims." It did not say, "We were wrong to write them." It did not say, "We regret calling a convicted rapist a role model." The distinction matters, because Ashton Kutcher is not just a private person who made a mistake in supporting a friend. He is the co-founder of Thorne, an organization whose entire stated mission is to fight child exploitation and support abuse survivors. He has testified before Congress. He has given TED Talks. He has made his identity, his brand, and his public legacy about protecting the vulnerable.
Day job is as the chairman and the co-founder of Thorne. We build software to fight human trafficking in the sexual exploitation of children.
And then he wrote that letter. The cognitive dissonance in those two things existing simultaneously, that is the story. That is what people cannot reconcile. And that is why the backlash wasn't just controversy, it was a reckoning. Thorne, officially the Thorne Foundation, was founded by Ashton and his then wife Demi Moore in 2010. Its stated mission, using technology to fight child and exploitation online. In 2014, it developed a tool called Spotlight, designed to help law enforcement identify and rescue victims. On paper and in many documented cases, Thorne has done real work. Law enforcement agencies have credited its tools with assisting in real investigations. That should be stated clearly, but Thorne has also faced substantive, documented criticism from credible sources. The European Data Protection Supervisor formally criticized Thorne for what they described as misleading the public about its role. Critics including privacy experts and digital rights organizations, have raised concerns about Thorne's lobbying for legislation that would require online platforms to deploy mass scanning of private communications, including encrypted apps like WhatsApp and Signal. The concern is that this creates infrastructure for mass surveillance. Regardless of intent, Thorne's financial documents, which are public because it is a nonprofit, show tens of millions in revenue, significant spending on lobbying, particularly in Europe, and investments connected to Ashton Kutcher's venture capital fund, Sound Ventures. Ventures. Sound Ventures is co-founded with Ron Burkle, a billionaire whose name appeared in Epstein-related documents. To be clear, appearing in those documents does not constitute a crime or proven wrongdoing, but it is a documented connection. None of this proves Thorne is anything other than what it claims to be. Organizations can do genuine good work and still have financial entanglements worth scrutinizing. Transparency matters, especially for charities that handle sensitive data and claim moral authority on issues of child safety. The question the letter forced people to ask, was this an honest contradiction or something more calculated? That question is fair, and it has not been answered satisfactorily. Let's lay out simply and factually who Ashton Kutcher has been documented as having professional and social connections to, and what has since happened to those people. Danny Masterson co-star, longtime friend, someone Ashton publicly defended, now convicted of rape, sentenced to 30 years to life. Harvey Weinstein, documented social connection, convicted of rape and assault, currently serving a prison sentence. Les Wexner, the man whose brand Ashton modeled for, named by the FBI as a co-conspirator in the Epstein investigation. Ron Burkle, Ashton's venture capital co-founder. Name appears in Epstein-related documents. No criminal charges filed. Knowing people who later turned out to be criminals does not make you a criminal. Hollywood is a small world. Many people had professional relationships with Harvey Weinstein without knowing what he was doing. That is documented and true. But Ashton Kutcher's specific situation carries additional weight because he has built his entire public identity on being the person who fights exploitation. That is the standard he set for himself. And by that standard, these associations deserve examination. After the Masterson letter backlash, something notable happened. Ashton and Mila, who had spent years famously keeping their children out of the public eye, being vocal about protecting their family's privacy, suddenly started appearing with their kids in public. Paparazzi shots, media appearances. The children, who had previously been shielded, were now visible. This is a documented shift in behavior that followed the public backlash, whether it was a deliberate PR strategy or a natural response to wanting to reframe the narrative, only they know. But the timing is documented, and the contrast with their previous stated position on their children's privacy is real. Ashton has also faced separate documented legal issues. In 2023, the SEC fined him and Mila $1 million for conducting an unregistered offering of crypto assets related to their NFT project. That is a confirmed public regulatory action. He faced criticism for promoting WeWork without disclosing his financial stake in the company and ethical concern about conflicts of interest. None of these things individually define a person, but they accumulate. And when you are the person who has built a platform on moral authority, on being the good guy, the protector, the activist accumulation has consequences. So let's end with what we actually verifiably know. We know that Ashton Kutcher on a bet from Danny Masterson. That happened on camera and was discussed on national television. We know he testified in a murder trial about a night that still carries unanswered questions, though he was never charged with any wrongdoing. We know he wrote a character letter calling a man who was subsequently convicted of rape a role model, while simultaneously running a charity whose mission is protecting children from exploitation. We know Thorne, that charity, has faced documented criticism from regulators and privacy experts about its practices and financial transparency. We know his business and social network included multiple men who were later convicted of or investigated for serious crimes. We know the apology came. We know it was careful. We know it did not use the words, "I was wrong." And we know that the media, largely, moved on quickly because Ashton Kutcher is likable, because he is charming, and because Hollywood has always protected its most bankable faces. What we don't know, what remains genuinely unanswered, is whether all of this represents a man who made a series of serious moral failures while genuinely trying to do good, or whether the charity, the activism, and the carefully maintained persona were always in part a construction, a shield. That question isn't slander, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's the natural conclusion of looking at the documented facts laid out next to each other. And the fact that we're still asking it years after the Masterson letter, years after the backlash, tells you something about how much the answer matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was the apology enough? Does the documented record change how you see Thorne's work? And more broadly, how much accountability should we hold celebrities to when the gap between their public mission and their private actions is this wide? Like and subscribe if you want more of this kind of deep dive accountability coverage. We're just getting started.